Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. This podcast is almost at 20,000 downloads. I am freaking out. Like, this is so cool. And it's because of you, because you show up and you listen and you tell your friends. And I'm so truly honored and blessed. And I feel like I don't know, like I'm just celebrating. I'm celebrating you. I'm celebrating your desire and willingness to grow and learn. And I'm just so honored to serve you. So thank you so much. And if you have been greatly impacted by the podcast, go ahead and leave a review on iTunes. That would be so helpful, just to get it out there even more. And, people message me all the time and they share their stories from listening to the podcast. And I'm so grateful that you reach out to me. Keep reaching out to me. Keep letting me know and sharing this message, because I know that it's creating a ripple. You get something out of it and then you go tell someone. And that is literally what lights my soul on freaking fire. So there's that. So thank you. And if you haven't gotten your angel number guidebook yet, I did an manifesting angel numbers challenge. If you want to go back and watch the challenge, it was awesome. It's in the Facebook group, Manifestation Nation, under videos. But if you just want the guidebook, I have it for you. So there's a link in the show notes for you to just get the guidebook. Plus, it's free. I look at it all the time when I see angel numbers. It's really helped me, especially in moments or times when I feel lost or confused. The numbers are always there. And so the guidebook is just to help you get through. So get your guidebook. Enjoy today's episode and screenshot it with me and share it on the gram at Manifest with Ash. Welcome to the Badass Manifester podcast, keeping you inspired with high vibe content, bringing you the best manifestation and mindset tools, teachings, interviews, and answering questions to help empower you to get out of your own way and take massive action to make magic your everyday normal. I'm your host, Ashley Gordon, spiritual life and manifestation coach, helping women and spiritual entrepreneurs manifest more impact, influence, and income. It is my purpose and pleasure to help you wake up to the badass creator that you are. Let's do this. What's up, badass manifestors? On Instagram, on Facebook, and on the podcast. I'm doing all the posts. Hey, Car. Hey, what's up? So let me just share this post to my group. If you're not in Manifestation Nation group, please join the group. It's a really awesome place to hang out. Hey, from Vegas, what's up? And it's where we are, where we hang out, where I talk a lot about manifesting, where I talk a lot about creating your life on purpose. So you can search Manifestation Nation on Facebook if you're curious. Today, I want to talk about, what does it mean to be spiritual anyway? And this topic came out of a session with a client. And one of my clients was interning for another spiritual coach. And I'm going to get into that story in a minute. But basically, this whole topic on what it means to be a spiritual coach and what it means to be spiritual in general came out of our session. And I thought it was super valuable because I think that there's a lot of misconception around what is it to be spiritual and what is it to not. Some things are spiritual and some things aren't. And so I'd like to myth bust this topic with you guys tonight, wherever you are in the world. And so I just want to start off by saying there's no such thing as being a spiritual person and not being a spiritual person. We were all born from the same energy, which is spirit, right? We're all spiritual beings. We're all made of that same source energy. And so it doesn't really matter, where you've come from, where you're going, what you were born into, what you weren't, whether you've done good things or whether you've done bad things. I just want you to know good and bad is something that we've made up. And there is no such thing as one person being more spiritual than the other. And so, we have a lot of rules around what it means to be a spiritual person. And, who is spiritual, and that we have those rules like based on our religion. We have those rules based on how our parents raised us. We have those rules by, what our teachers taught us and how we were raised and all these different elements around us of like, our programming, how we were programmed to believe and what we were programmed to believe. And so, I grew up with a couple of beliefs such as, it's not spiritual to make a lot of money or have a lot of money. It's not spiritual to talk about money. It's not spiritual to drink alcohol or smoke weed. It's not spiritual to eat meat. It's not spiritual to X, Y, and Z. Or like if you're in a spiritual career like a coach, or if you're a yoga teacher, like there's these rules like yoga teachers shouldn't do this or yoga teachers shouldn't do that. And don't get me wrong, okay? I just want to also preface that, obviously if you're a coach or you're a spiritual entrepreneur and you're setting an example for people, you want to be a leader, right? You want to be a leader and you want to live your life, and you have to live your life, right? And to do what empowers you in those situations, right? And so I just want to say that there is no right or wrong way to be spiritual or not be spiritual, except the way that you believe it to be, right? So if you believe that you're doing something wrong, then you're doing something wrong. Then the universe is going to kind of give you that, you're wrong. And then you're going to be like, oh, it's not spiritual to do that because that's wrong. And now I have proof in my reality, but that's only because you held that belief within yourself. Does that make sense? And so if you have any beliefs that are like, is this spiritual? Is this not spiritual? Share them with me. What did you grow up thinking? What do you go back and forth with in your mind, whether something's spiritual or not spiritual? And so, back to the beginning of this conversation, when I was in session with my client, she was interning for a spiritual coach, and the spiritual coach was telling her that she was on a keto diet. And my client was like, wow, that's awesome. Like, you're on a keto diet. That's amazing. And she was like, yeah, she's like, but I don't really like to share that with my audience because I don't think it's very spiritual. Okay. And so when she told me this, I was like, wow, this spiritual coach is only putting things out there that she thinks other people will perceive as spiritual. So she will be liked, right?
And this is a side note here from this live video, just for you guys listening on the podcast. And I'm saying this from my own personal experience. We can't hide who we really are because we're afraid that we won't be liked or accepted, right? And spiritual people, some people think it's not spiritual to eat meat. Some people think it is spiritual to eat meat. So I can see why this coach didn't want to share that, because she didn't want to rock the boat. But the truth of the matter is people want to know you for who you are. And if they don't resonate with you, then bye, right? And some people think cursing isn't spiritual. I say, fuck that. I say, express yourself. You know what I mean? Everyone has a different perspective on what spirituality is and what spirituality isn't.
Yes, Kara said, it's spiritual to me when it resonates with me. Beautiful. Yeah. I think it simply is creating togetherness or separation. Totally. Yeah. It's absolutely doing that too. And so when I heard that this coach had this block around sharing what was real for her, which was her diet at the time, which was her keto diet, and being afraid that other people wouldn't accept that or like that about her, it really struck something with me oh, I think this is something that people are internally struggling with. And I know that I did for a long time too. This past weekend, I was in New York with my best friends. I was with my friend Jen Casey for 2 days. We were masterminding. We were planning out 2019. And then I went wedding dress shopping with my best friend Sadie and Nola and Sarah. And it was so much fun. And we went out to dinner. And Sadie used to stay out really late, till 5 in the morning. And we would go out. This was years ago. And we wouldn't get home till super late. So that's not really in alignment with me anymore. And so I was joking with her and I was like, Sadie, you don't like to stay out till 5 a.m. anymore, do you? And she was like, I'm tired. It was 10:30. She's like, I'm tired. I'm like, me too. Let's go to bed as soon as possible. So we
we ended up leaving dinner and meeting my sister who was in the city at this rooftop bar club place. And turns out, long story short, Sadie and I stayed out till 3 a.m, dancing our faces off, letting our souls move, being free, having so much fun. And it was like the best night ever. It was so much fun. And so the next day, I shared it on my Instagram. And I was like, I stayed out till 3 a.m, dancing the night away. And I like posted a video of me and her dancing and singing along. And I just, after that night was over, I said to her, as we were waiting for our Uber, I was like, my soul needed that. Like, I needed that. It was so awesome. And, you know, in the past, I wouldn't have shared something like that on my Instagram because I had this belief that, you know, everything I posted had to be on brand. Everything I posted had to be like, you know, something that's like, you know, if you're out till 3 a.m. dancing in a club in New York City, like that wouldn't be like taken the right way or something. And, you know, I had nothing around it when I posted it. Like, and that just shows me, you know, progress, right? Like, the only reason we fear around sharing certain things or being in our full self-expression or being our most authentic self is judgment. We fear what other people are going to think about us, if other people are going to like us, if we're going to be received, if we're going to be accepted. And here's the thing, is like, if that resonated with me, if that was what lit my soul up, if that is what made me feel happy, then that's what I had to do, right? And it doesn't matter what anybody else has to say about it. So in that moment, I felt super connected, you know, while we were out there dancing, having fun. I felt super free. I felt in joy. I felt in love. And those are the feelings that I want to cultivate in my life. Those are the feelings that breed more of those feelings. So the more you focus on the feelings that you want to attract in your life, that's what you're going to attract in your life. So I thought that was an interesting, you know, point because someone just shared, people that are posted will accept you. If not, they are not your tribe. Exactly. Like, if people are going to resonate with what I share, then they're going to resonate with what I share. And if they don't, then I have no control over that. And I think one thing that holds a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs back is caring so much about what other people think, because we don't want to be rejected. And I just want you to know that every single human on this planet doesn't want to be rejected. And so if you know that that's like the ultimate fear, that you could potentially be rejected for something that you share, and even if someone tells you like that's not spiritual for you to share that, who cares, right? Like, who gives a crap? Because you're doing you. And just to like take that a little step further is sometimes when you step out and you embody the version of yourself that is creating the life of your dreams, you are going to get whiplash. You're going to get doubt reflected back to you in your reality. There might be a naysayer. There might be a troll. There might be a hater. There might be someone judging you. And that doesn't mean to stop what you're doing. That doesn't mean to let go of, you know, the alignment that you're in just because someone told you that you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't invest in that, or you shouldn't put that out there, or you should take that post down, or that post is a little much. You know, it's the doubt that shows up for us is meant to propel you forward, to move through it, not to like back down and hide from it. Does that make sense? Someone shared, Sacred Resonance shared, your spirituality is no one else's business, just like other opinions are none of your business. I love that. I want to read that again. Your spirituality is no one else's business, just like others' opinions of you are none of your business. Boom. I'm sharing this message because I want to be the example for you guys to know that like it's okay for you to do whatever your soul wants you to do, right? And I used to have a lot of guilt. I used to have a lot of shame, like if I would go out and I would party or if I would drink. But here's the deal. If you're going to go out and you're going to do whatever you do, which is nobody else's business anyway, then you need to just let it be what it is. Because if you're resisting what you're doing and you're resisting what feels good and you're resisting what, what it is that your soul wants you to do in that moment, if it's go out and dance, right? Or go out and do something. If you're resisting it, you're really just taking away from your own joy. And so just pay attention. Like, does this feel good? Does this not feel good? And go with your gut. Go with what feels good. Go with what you know you need, and let the guilt go. Because if you're going to do it anyway, there's no point in holding on to it. I was on a podcast interview and we were talking about guilt and how guilt's it's like a backpack. It's like a really heavy backpack, and you can wear it for as long as you want. But then, when you wear a backpack and it gets to the point where you literally just cannot you just can't wear the backpack anymore. You just can't. And you have to take off the backpack, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to let go of this. Just do that, right? Like, if you're going to do those things anyway, then just let go of the guilt. It's that easy. It really can be that easy. And so also I wanted to share that there was a book that I read when I was 19, and the book was called What God Wants. What God Wants, from Neale Donald Walsch. He's one of my favorite authors. One of his books, the first book I ever read of his was Conversations with God. He's amazing. And What God Wants is a book all about what God wants from you. And I'm like so curious. I'm 19. I'm like, really, like, what does God want from me? What does God really truly want from me? So I'm going through the book. I'm reading it. I'm anxiously like getting to that chapter of like, what does God want from me? And so I finally get to the chapter. I think it was like chapter 13, what God wants from you. And there was about 5 blank pages. And I was like flipping through the pages. I'm like, I was like, what's going on here? Like, there's no writing on these pages. I just want to know what God wants from me. And on the next chapter, it was like, God wants what you want. The universe wants what you want. This can be confusing for some people who were raised in, very strict religious families. Ultimately, it's the same, right? Like, God wants what you want. Besides all those rules, like, that's why I was raised Jewish, but I just consider myself in connection with my own spirituality. And so trusting that, God wants what I want. I don't have to show up to a church or a synagogue to be praised by God. I don't have to show up to a temple to, be a spiritual person, because to me, my body is my temple. And so I'm always in that temple, right? Like, we're always there. And if it makes you feel good to show up to those places and it makes you feel connected, then do that. That's what's best for you. What's best for you is guiding the way, right? Like, it's leading you. You're doing it. Thanks for the love, guys. So I thought that was really interesting, the book, What God Wants. And you know what I think is really, I think there's 2 things that are super not spiritual, like super not spiritual, right? And I don't really think that much is not spiritual, because I still think there's an element to these 2 things that is spiritual in some way, because it's leading you somewhere. But in my opinion, and when I was, getting information to share with you guys for this episode, is that the 2 things that are not spiritual are being inauthentic with yourself, being inauthentic with what truly makes you happy and what you truly want. If you're like, on the path to being a spiritual coach or a spiritual shaman, and you want to go out for happy hour, and you think that that's not spiritual to do that, but you really want to do that and catch up with your friend because that's important to you, but you're like on this spiritual coach path, and there's a paradox. There's a part of you that's like separating, right? And so if you don't show up to that happy hour, then you're being inauthentic with yourself. And to me, that's not spiritual, right? And then the second thing is which I touched on earlier, is like being inauthentic and carrying around guilt for what actually makes you happy. Those 2 things. And those two things are actually really valuable and can actually lead to a very big spiritual awakening. If you guys are having like some aha moments, let me know. Share them with me. If you have questions, share them with me. Please let me know. And, I think the ultimate question really comes down to is like, what does it mean to be spiritual anyway? What does it mean to be spiritual? Well, ultimately, being connected to yourself, being connected to what's true for you, and, knowing what's true for you to the point that you have to align with it. You have to really, truly get your whole being physically, mentally, and energetically aligned with what is true for you. There's a lot of question around alcohol, smoking, pot, all that stuff is like not spiritual. At the same time, there's so many people that think that it is. At the same time, you have to do what's best for you. And yeah, sure, there's some side effects around, if you drink a lot of alcohol, you're lowering your vibration, which could lower your spiritual connection. And so you just have to stay in alignment with what it is that you really need and want. Because sometimes doing that, drinking too much, or, it's holiday time, there's a lot of parties, there's a lot of temptation with food and all that, sometimes going overboard in those directions actually leads you to wanting to connect more with yourself, to wanting to let go of things that aren't good for you or, good for you. You know what's good for you. Like, I know in my heart what's good for me. I know what my higher self wants me to eat, wants me to drink, wants me not to eat, wants me not to drink. Coffee's a big one, right? Like, it's just your body knows, your heart knows, your spirit knows what it wants and what it needs. And so being spiritual, in my opinion, is really connecting to that part of you that that's true, that knows what's true for you and that knows what's best for you. And so that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. That's what I wanted to share on this podcast episode. And really start to pay attention to where you feel those contractions when you're making decisions, and where you feel those like pangs of joy of like, yes, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And whatever decision you make, just know that you can't make a wrong decision. You literally cannot make a wrong decision. So Shyma says, love the explanation of what is not spiritual. Definitely an aha moment. Love you, Shyma. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's live. And if you guys have questions on this, I want to continue talking about this. Come into Manifestation Nation Facebook group and we can continue the conversation. I so acknowledge you for investing your time into this podcast and for sharing it and for leaving us a review. And as my gift, I want to give you your free angel number guidebook. The link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to the Badass Manifester podcast. I love manifesting Mondays with you. And there's so much more in store right here. The best way to manifest love is to give love. If you loved what you heard today, subscribe to the Badass Manifester podcast. Leave a review on iTunes. Let me know how much you dig the energy here. All of my social is linked up in the show notes. So screenshot this episode, tag me on Instagram, and let me be part of your real-time journey. For more info on me, feel free to go to my website, manifestwithash.com. Repeat after me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. Go get them.